It was supposed to be a simple afternoon. Lena Thomas didn't dress up. She never felt the need to. A faded hoodie, worn-out jeans, and messy bun. That was her uniform on most days. She liked comfort over flash, peace over show. So when her old Honda started coughing on the freeway, she figured it was finally time to replace it. Nothing fancy, just something reliable. She pulled into a luxury car dealership she passed by every day but never entered. The glass windows shimmered like they'd reject her presence. Inside, sleek black and chrome sedans lined the floor like proud soldiers. Audi, BMW, even a couple of Bentleys. She didn't come for them. There were smaller models too. She thought, maybe, just maybe, one would be on discount. The moment she stepped in, it felt wrong. Not because she didn't belong, but because they made sure she knew it. A young man in a tight suit with slicked back hair glanced at her, gave a polite but fake smile, then went back to typing on his iPad. A woman with red-bottom heels and too much perfume sniffed audibly as she walked by. No one approached. No "can I help you?" Not even a brochure. Lena stood awkwardly in front of a compact electric sedan and tried to look interested. She checked the sticker price and gave a low whistle, definitely over budget. But she wasn't here to buy it today, just to look, maybe plan, maybe test drive. "Ma'am," a voice called sharply behind her. It was the slick-haired man, now, with a new expression, annoyed. "Yes?" She smiled, hopeful. "I'm afraid this dealership doesn't allow loitering. If you're not here to purchase a vehicle today, we kindly ask you to leave. These cars are quite high-end." Lena blinked. "I'm not loitering, I'm genuinely browsing. Right, we've heard that one." He smirked, and the woman, in heels behind the counter, actually giggled. Lena felt heat crawl up her neck. "I didn't expect to be judged by my outfit." "It's not just the outfit," the man said flatly. "It's obvious you're not the clientele we cater to. We have a policy of providing undivided attention to serious buyers. If you're not—" She didn't let him finish. The lump in her throat was growing too big, and pride held her legs steady even though she wanted to run. She gave a small, bitter nod, turned around, and walked out. The sun felt hotter than before. Her Honda sat there, crooked and coughing like it too was ashamed of her. She drove home in silence, chewing on the humiliation like stale bread. Tears threatened to come, but she swallowed them down. She didn't tell her husband that night. He was upstairs on a late Zoom call, his voice calm and commanding behind closed doors. No one would ever guess the man in that office, the CEO of one of the country's top tech firms, was married to a woman who just got laughed out of a dealership. The thing is, Lena never liked to talk about money. She didn't flaunt his success. They lived in a beautiful house, yes, but she still clipped coupons and loved her tiny garden more than spa weekends. That night, as she made dinner, something changed. She didn't want revenge. Not really. She just wanted them to know, to see her. Not her clothes, not her old car. Her. So the next morning, without telling anyone, Lena whispered a quiet idea to her husband over breakfast. He didn't ask many questions, but when she told him what happened, his eyes darkened. And when she was done, he leaned back in his chair and smiled. "All right," he said. "Let's make a little statement." The next day, that dealership's glass doors would open again, but this time they wouldn't see Lena walk in. They'd see a Rolls-Royce Phantom, deep black with matte finish, custom license plate that read Simple 1. And inside, waiting patiently for someone to open the door for her, was the same woman they kicked out. Lena didn't sleep much that night. Her mind replayed the scene at the dealership over and over like a cruel loop on repeat. The snickering woman, the smug look on that salesman's face, the way he said, "You're not the clientele we cater," touting as if she were beneath them, invisible, disposable. She hadn't felt like that in years. Not since her early days working as a waitress in a sticky-floored diner, where rich customers snapped fingers instead of speaking. Not since she'd been passed over for promotion after promotion because she didn't look the part. She thought those days were behind her. But humiliation doesn't care about your past. It only takes a second to drag you back. She sat at the kitchen island long after her husband, Marcus, went to bed. The clock ticked past midnight, the silence broken only by the soft hum of the refrigerator. Her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Ordered something special. Delivery. Tomorrow. Be ready. She stared at the text, confused. What had he meant? Marcus wasn't the flashy type, despite his billions. Tech geniuses rarely were. He wore the same black tee and jeans every day, preferred code to cocktails, and found parties unbearable. But when someone crossed him, or his wife, he had a way of making it unforgettable. The next morning, Lena opened the door to find a sleek jet-black Rolls-Royce Phantom purring on her driveway. A uniformed driver stepped out and gave her a polite nod. "Mrs. Thomas?" She blinked. Yes? I've been instructed to be at your service all day. Mr. Thomas said to take you, wherever you feel like being seen." Lena's heart skipped. The car's door opened like a throne waiting for its queen. Inside was luxury on another level, cream leather seats, real wood finish, and a screen already loaded with a playlist Marcus must have created just for her. She recognized the first song immediately, Power by Little Mix. How fitting. She slid in, stunned, confused, amused, and yes, finally, a little satisfied. "Take me to—" She hesitated, then smirked. "That dealership. The same one I went to yesterday." The driver didn't flinch. Of course, it was rush hour. People stared at the Phantom as it glided through the city like royalty. Men in suits slowed their walks to get a glance. A kid pulled out his phone to take photos. A barista nearly dropped her latte. And Lena? She sat back, legs crossed. No makeup. No fancy jewelry. Still just Lena. But now she had everyone's attention. As the car turned onto the dealership's street, Lena felt a nervous flutter in her chest. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was anticipation. The Phantom stopped, right at the glass entrance. Not in a parking space, in front of the damn door. The driver stepped out and opened her door. A young assistant manager, one she hadn't seen before, rushed out, trying to figure out what VIP client had arrived. "Ma'am, good morning." "Welcome to Avalon Luxury Motors," he said, trying to spot some billionaire he didn't recognize. Then he saw her. Recognition dawned slowly, his smile faltered. Behind him, the slick-haired salesman and the perfume-drenched receptionist peered. Through the glass, their faces paled. Lena stepped out, calm, composed. "I'd like to speak to the general manager," she said softly. "Now." The assistant opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded and rushed inside. A few moments later, a balding man in a navy suit hurried out with that fake corporate smile they teach in sales training. "Mrs. R, welcome to Avalon. How can we help you today?" "Yesterday," she began, voice smooth as velvet, "I came here looking to browse your electric vehicle selection. I was humiliated, judged, laughed at, kicked out." The man stiffened. I wasn't aware of this." "Oh, don't worry, I didn't come back for an apology." Her voice was sweet and low, but every word hit like a knife. She turned toward the driver. "Pop the trunk, please." He did. Inside sat a luxury handbag. Designer, limited edition. Marcus had probably gotten it before it even hit the shelves. Lena pulled out a sleek leather portfolio from it and handed it to the manager. He opened it. Inside was a signed purchase order for 7 vehicles from competing luxury brands, Mercedes, BMW, Tesla, Bentley, and a note that said, "Each of these dealerships treated my wife with respect. Yours did not. We're placing a bulk order elsewhere. Consider this a lesson in humility and customer profiling." The general manager's face turned ashen. "I just wanted you to see what kind of clientele you threw out yesterday," Lena said with a small, polite smile. "And next time a woman walks in with worn-out jeans, maybe treat her like she matters, because she might just be the reason your quarterly sales crash." She turned and walked back to the Rolls like it was a runway. The automatic door closed behind her with a satisfying click, and as the Phantom pulled away, the silence she left behind in that glass palace of arrogance spoke louder than any words ever could. The drive back from the dealership was quiet, not awkward, powerful. Lena sat in the back seat, eyes steady, lips slightly curved. She didn't say much, but her posture told the story. She wasn't embarrassed anymore. She wasn't angry either. No, Lena was evolving, learning something about herself, about how easily people judged, about how much weight money held, even when you didn't want to throw it around. When they got home, Marcus was already on a call, his tone clipped and surgical. "No, Richard, I'm not threatening. I'm simply stating. Your dealership just became a case study in failure." Our foundation was going to launch a partnership program with Avalon. That offer's off the table. And we'll be choosing new suppliers for our staff fleet. Immediately. Lena leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching him. He looked like the exact opposite of what that salesman imagined when he dismissed her. No Rolex, no Gucci. Suit. Just a man in slippers and a hoodie, building empires from his laptop. When he hung up, he turned to her with a quiet smile. "How was your ride?" "Comfortable," she said, arching an eyebrow. "You really went all out." He chuckled. "Did you enjoy the presentation?" She nodded. It felt petty at first, but now, I think they needed that slap. "Oh, it's not over," Marcus said, leaning back. "You know that dealership chain? It's owned by a larger group, Prestia Automotive Group. Their parent company is publicly traded, and guess who owns 4% of their shares?" Lena blinked. "You?" "I do, or technically my firm does. Which means I can request internal reviews, influence board decisions, and start asking loud questions about their frontline behavior." "You're going corporate petty," she said, both impressed and mildly concerned. He shrugged. "What can I say? You mess with my wife, you mess with our portfolio." Lena laughed for the first time in 2 days, and in that laugh was a release, a weight lifted. But as much as Marcus could tear down systems with a phone call, Lena wasn't done either. Something inside her had shifted. For years she'd been content being just his wife, quiet, humble, behind the scenes, and there was beauty in that. But now she saw how easily society mistook humility for weakness. She wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. That evening, Lena posted a short story on her anonymous blog, something she'd been using quietly for years to write about her life, her thoughts, her journey. The post was simple, but cutting. "Today I was judged by my clothes and my silence. Yesterday I was told I didn't look like someone who belonged. Today I arrived in a car worth more than their entire salary, just to show them how wrong they were. But this isn't about cars or money, it's about dignity. Don't underestimate the quiet ones. We've already survived louder storms." She didn't expect it to go viral, but by midnight it had. A few reposts on Twitter, a Reddit thread in Rough You Karen. A TikTok creator with 1 million followers turned her post into a dramatic reenactment. Suddenly her words were everywhere. People guessed who she was. Some connected dots. The dealership's name got dropped in the comments. Their Yelp and Google reviews tanked overnight. One of their own staff leaked a video from the security cam, the moment they threw her out. It wasn't flattering. By morning, news outlets were calling it the luxury profiling incident. And Lena, she was sipping coffee in her garden, watching tomatoes grow. Marcus peeked out. "You're trending." "I know. You okay with that?" She exhaled. "Actually, yeah." He walked out, kissed her temple, and sat beside her. "So what now?" "I think it's time I did more with my voice. Maybe people like me, quiet, overlooked, need to stop staying in the background." "You want to go public?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she opened her laptop and started drafting a new blog post titled, "They Called Me a Nobody. They Had No Idea Who I Was." By noon, Lena's second blog post had hit over 400,000 views. The title alone, "They Called Me a Nobody, They Had No Idea Who I Was," was enough to stir curiosity and clickbait hunger, but it was her words that lit the match. She didn't name names, not directly. She didn't have to. The public was faster than investigators when fueled by outrage. They connected dots, found footage, screenshotted comments, and started a full-blown social storm. Respect the Customer was trending. So was Ayakan Simple Woman Power. Someone even edited a viral meme of Lena stepping out of the Rolls-Royce with the caption, "Y'all better treat everyone like they married a billionaire." Lena laughed when she saw that one. The internet had a twisted, chaotic sense of justice, but right now it was in her corner. Meanwhile, the dealership's corporate office was going into crisis mode. Inside the boardroom of Prestia Automotive Group, the tone was anything but calm. Who the hell told her to leave the Showroom? Barked the regional director, pacing in front of a massive LED screen displaying screenshots from the blog and tweets slamming the company. Jake did. Our sales exec, but he claims she was... I don't give a damn what he claims. This is spiraling. We've got reporters calling for statements, dealerships pulling out of partnerships, and do you know what's worse? Our stock dipped 4 points this morning. The room went silent. 4 points was millions. An emergency PR team was brought in. There was talk of suspensions, damage control, public apologies. Meanwhile, Lena was still... Lena. She made no dramatic announcements, gave no press interviews, and didn't even reveal her full name. But the world already had its underdog hero. She was a symbol now. The simple woman who flipped the table without raising her voice. Marcus watched all of it unfold with quiet pride. "You know," he said that evening as they walked through their garden, "I haven't seen you this alive in a long time." "I haven't felt this alive in a long time," she admitted. "It's weird. I wasn't trying to be some icon, I just wanted them to treat me like a person." He nodded, slipping his hand into hers. "Sometimes standing up for yourself makes you a voice for everyone else." She stopped, thoughtful. "Do you think it's wrong that I'm letting it all blow up like this?" "Wrong? Lena, they judged you based on your car and your jeans. They tried to humiliate you because you didn't look wealthy enough to be worth their time. You didn't start this fire, but maybe it needed to burn." Just then, Lena's phone buzzed again. An email from Good Morning America. Another, from BBC Lifestyle, a podcast invite. And a private message from someone surprising, an ex-employee of the dealership. "Hi Lena, I used to work at Avalon. I read your post. I saw what happened to you. Just so you know, it wasn't just you. They do this a lot, especially to women, especially to minorities. I left because I couldn't stomach it anymore. I have stories. I have proof. If you want it, it's yours." Lena stared at the message. For a long time. Something in her shifted again. This wasn't just about her anymore, not even about revenge. She was sitting on the edge of something much bigger, something that might change the way people in power treated everyday customers. And the dealership, they had no idea this simple woman was about to become their biggest reckoning. Lena couldn't stop thinking about the message. It had come from a woman named Ariel Garcia, who used to work at Avalon as a finance manager. She left the company 6 months ago with no fanfare, but now she was resurfacing, offering something Lena didn't even know she needed: the truth. That night, Lena replied simply, "I want to hear everything." They met the next morning at a quiet cafe tucked away from the city noise. Ariel arrived early, in a blazer over jeans, hair pulled tight, with a laptop case that looked way too heavy for casual conversation. Lena spotted her from the door. Their eyes met. Ariel gave a tight, knowing smile, the kind people share when they've both survived the same fire. "You're brave," Ariel said as Lena sat down. Lena shook her head. "Not brave, just tired of swallowing disrespect." Ariel nodded slowly. "Same." What followed over the next 2 hours was a full-scale exposé. Ariel laid out incident after incident. Customers profiled, denied test drives, ignored, laughed at behind their backs. Notes on their CRM customer database were filled with degrading shorthand codes. TYT for "they're just trying it," WC for "won't commit," and even a tag labeled DNW, "do not waste time." The staff would use these tags based on clothing, car brand, race, even last names. They were trained to do this, Ariel said bitterly, sipping her coffee. Not officially, of course, but the unspoken rule was, if they don't look rich, they're wasting our time. Lena's stomach turned. She knew what it felt like to be judged, but she hadn't realized it was systemic. Ariel pulled out her laptop and opened a file titled Avalon Internal. Inside were spreadsheets, chat logs, and audio recordings, some legal, some not exactly. One stood out, a voice memo between 2 managers laughing about a woman who came in with Target shoes, asking to test drive a $200K Bentley. Lena recognized the voice of the man who threw her out. She sat back, trying to process the ugliness of it all. You were brave too, Lena finally said, for saving all this. Ariel shrugged. I knew it would be useful someday. I just didn't expect a simple woman in jeans to bring the whole thing down. Lena smiled, but her eyes were steel. Well, now it's time we do exactly that. That evening, Lena shared her first public video, speaking directly to the camera. No filters, no lighting. Just her, raw and real. Hi, you know me as the woman who walked into a dealership in jeans and got kicked out. But this isn't just about that day. It's bigger, much bigger. What if I told you they do this all the time? That they have codes for judging people? That they profile based on skin color, clothes, and accent? I have proof, and I'm not staying quiet anymore. Then she dropped the hammer. Screenshots, audio clips, blurred faces but clear voices. No names, but just enough for the world to recognize the tone of discrimination, arrogance, and toxicity. She posted the video on YouTube and her blog, titled, How to Spot a Salesman Who Thinks You're Beneath Him. The internet lost its mind. Within 24 hours, the video hit 1 million views. The dealership chain was forced to put out a formal press release claiming they were investigating internal behavior. But people weren't buying it. Former employees began popping up in the comments. I worked there. Everything she says is true. We were taught to ignore anyone who didn't drive a German car. I got fired for helping a single mum buy a used Benz on credit. Lena's inbox exploded with similar horror stories from all over the country. She started compiling them, one by one. Her blog became a digital wall of voices who had been silenced or dismissed. Marcus watched it all unfold with awe. You're not just viral anymore, he told her one night. You're becoming a movement. Lena gave a soft, tired smile. I didn't ask for this. No, he said, but maybe the world needed someone like you to start it. By the end of the week, everyone was talking about her. Daytime talk shows were debating the ethics of luxury sales. Influencers were analyzing her blog post like it was a TED Talk. Late-night hosts cracked jokes about dealerships, now offering humility training with every oil change. But while the public laughed, Prestia Automotive Group was not. Behind closed doors, their legal team scrambled to contain the damage. Letters were sent to Lena's email, politely worded but full of pressure. We request that you cease and desist from sharing internal material that may have been obtained unlawfully. Lena showed the email to Marcus, whose response was immediate and amused. Ah, the old scare tactic. They're not suing, they're hoping you back down. And if I don't, then they'll fold or they'll burn. He leaned back and smiled. Either way, we win. But Lena wasn't looking to win, not anymore. She wanted change. So when a major TV network reached out and asked if she'd be willing to sit down for an exclusive interview, she said yes. The interview aired on a Sunday night and opened with soft piano music, dramatic voiceover, and wide-angle shots of Lena's garden, her modest clothes, her quiet voice. The contrast to the scandal was stunning. She told her story calmly, clearly, like someone who had nothing left to prove. I was treated like trash for not wearing designer shoes, for not walking in with a man beside me, for not speaking their language of status. They didn't ask what I could afford, they didn't care who I was. And I think a lot of people know that feeling, that you have to perform wealth to be taken seriously. The interviewer asked her, But you are wealthy, aren't you? Married to one of the richest tech entrepreneurs in the country. Lena smiled softly. Yes, but that shouldn't matter. Because the truth is, even if I wasn't, I still deserved respect. The ratings were massive. People across the country sent her messages of support. Car brands began issuing statements claiming they were reviewing internal culture practices. One dealership even offered her a free vehicle as a PR stunt. She declined it publicly. But while the love poured in, so did the hate. A few pundits called her spoiled, manipulative, even dangerous to business. Trolls posted clips of her getting out of the Rolls-Royce with mocking captions like, "Must be hard being oppressed in a $500,000 car." Some accused her of using her husband's wealth to play victim. Lena didn't flinch. She wrote a new blog post titled, "You can be rich and still be disrespected." Money doesn't protect women from sexism, it doesn't protect people of color from profiling, and it definitely doesn't protect us from being underestimated. When we choose not to look the part, The issue isn't what I own, the issue is what they assumed. It hit harder than any viral clip, but the real bomb dropped 2 days later. A whistleblower from Prestia's corporate headquarters leaked an internal email thread between executives mocking the public outcry, calling Lena a rich housewife playing Joan of Arc. One email even read, "Let's see how long this little circus lasts before people forget about her." That did it. Lena posted the emails with zero commentary, just screenshots time-stamped. The internet did the rest. Her's boycott Prestia started trending within hours. News outlets ran segments titled, "Inside the Arrogance of a Failing Empire." Prestia's CEO was forced to hold a live press conference, flanked by lawyers and PR reps. He apologized, sort of. "We deeply regret the experience of the individual involved. We acknowledge there have been lapses in customer service and judgment. We are undergoing sensitivity training across all branches, effective immediately." But no one was buying the sudden enlightenment. It was too late, and the man who kicked Lena out of the dealership, fired. His name leaked. His LinkedIn disappeared. His carefully curated digital persona shattered under the weight of his own arrogance. Lena didn't celebrate. She didn't post anything that day. Instead, she went out for coffee. Alone. Hoodie. No makeup. Sneakers. And this time, when someone held the door open and said, "Good morning, ma'am," she felt something unfamiliar. Seen. Not for her car. Not for her husband. Not for her name. Just her. The world eventually moves on. It always does. The hashtags faded. The news cycle turned to something else. Some scandal in Hollywood. Another celebrity breakup. The usual churn. But Lena's life had changed in ways the headlines could never capture. At first it was small things. People recognized her at the grocery store. Not because she was famous, but because she'd become something else. A symbol. They approached her carefully, with warmth and a kind of quiet respect. A nurse in her 40s hugged her in the produce aisle. A teenage girl asked for a selfie. An older man with tired eyes whispered, "Thank you, I've been invisible for years." It was surreal. Even Marcus noticed the difference. He watched her with soft pride like he always had, but now there was something deeper, a quiet awe. "You know," he said one night as they sat on the balcony, wine glasses in hand, "you've done more with one blog post than most people do with entire careers." Lena shook her head. "I didn't plan any of this." "Exactly. That's why it worked." But with the attention came a new question. What now? Lena could have faded back into quiet luxury. She could have let the dealership collapse and walked away satisfied. But something inside her had changed. Not ego, not revenge. Purpose. She realized that her voice had power, not because she was rich, but because she was honest. So she started something. It began as a website, Silent First. A platform dedicated to customer experiences, particularly those ignored, mistreated, or humiliated, simply for not looking a certain way. It invited people to tell their stories, real people, raw truths. In less than 2 weeks, it gained 100,000 followers. Companies began reaching out, not to silence her, but to collaborate. Small businesses wanted advice on customer experience. CEOs asked if she'd speak to their staff. A publishing house offered a book deal. And Lena? She didn't try to become a brand or a spokesperson. She just listened, read every message, replied when she could, shared stories from janitors. Fast. Food workers, immigrants, teachers, disabled veterans, people who had walked into banks, stores, job interviews, and walked out feeling like less. And every single time she reminded them, "You're not invisible, you never were." They just weren't looking. Meanwhile, Prestia Automotive's empire continued to crumble. The CEO resigned under pressure from the board. New management took over and promised sweeping reform. Lena didn't gloat. She didn't even mention it publicly. The victory wasn't theirs to give. It had already happened the day she walked out of that dealership with her head held high. But the one thing she never expected, her own shift in identity. For years she'd been Marcus Thomas's wife. And she loved Marcus deeply. But for the first time, people knew her name, not just as an extension of his success, but as someone who stood on her own, And Marcus? He didn't shrink in her shadow. He stood beside her, quietly cheering her on. "Funny," she said one morning, sipping her coffee in the garden. "All this started because I wanted to test drive a car." "And now?" Marcus asked. She looked at him, smiling. "Now I'm driving something much bigger." He raised his brow. "A cause?" "No," she said with a grin. "Myself. For once, I'm in the driver's seat." He laughed. "Well, just don't forget, your Rolls is still parked out front." "Oh, I haven't, but now I know I don't need it to prove anything." She meant every word, because Lena had learned something the world forgot long ago. Dignity isn't bought. It's reclaimed. 6 months later, Lena returned to that same dealership, not to cause a scene, not to gloat, but because the new general manager, a young black woman named Tasha, who had recently taken over after the scandal, invited her personally. The building had changed. The sales floor had a new layout, softer lighting, less intimidating design. The glass windows were no longer polished to feel like barriers. They felt welcoming. Lena noticed something small but powerful, a framed sign near the entrance that read, "Every customer is a VIP, no exceptions." She stepped in wearing the same kind of hoodie and jeans as last time, but no one ignored her now. Tasha walked over with a warm smile and held out her hand. "Mrs. Thomas, thank you for coming." Lena shook it firmly. "Lena's fine. I just wanted you to see it. The change. It's not perfect. We've still got work to do, but we're listening now." "I can feel that," Lena said softly, looking around. Salespeople were helping an elderly couple patiently, not rushing. A single mom with 2 kids was asking about lease options, and someone had brought her a bottle of water without her asking. Lena turned to Tasha. "How'd you get the job?" Tasha smiled. "I worked here once, years ago, got pushed out. Told I wasn't polished enough for the front desk. But after everything went down, corporate was scrambling to prove they weren't completely broken. I applied again. This time they didn't dare ignore my resume." Lena chuckled. "So we both came back, huh?" "Yeah, but this time we're walking in on our own terms." Tasha paused. "Would you like to take a test drive today?" "We'd be honored." Lena thought for a moment, then smiled. "No," she said. "I don't need a car today." Tasha tilted her head. "Then why'd you come back?" Lena looked around at the showroom, the same one that once made her feel small. "I guess I just wanted to prove to myself that I could walk back in here without shrinking, without rage, without needing the Rolls outside to feel worthy." She exhaled slowly. "And I can." Tasha nodded, and for a moment the 2 women just stood there, on the same ground where disrespect once echoed, now silent, now different. As Lena turned to leave, she passed by a young woman standing by the reception desk, nervous, biting her lip, wearing a jacket with a small rip in the sleeve, holding a notebook filled with hand-scribbled questions. Lena paused. "First time looking." The girl blinked. Yeah, just kinda scared they're gonna laugh me out of here. I'm just looking for something reliable, nothing flashy." Lena smiled gently. "Take your time. Ask every question. You deserve to be here." The girl hesitated, then whispered, "Are you that woman from online?" Lena winked. "Sometimes. But today, I'm just someone who knows what it feels like to be judged." As she stepped outside, the sun hit her face like a blessing. The Rolls was still parked at the curb, still gleaming, still commanding respect. But it wasn't her shield anymore. She didn't need it. She'd become something stronger than money, more permanent than headlines. She had become a reminder that being underestimated is a weapon in the right hands, that humility is not weakness, that silence doesn't mean surrender, and sometimes all it takes is a quiet woman in a hoodie walking into the wrong place to change everything.